Order up! Welcome to a brand new episode of the Order Up Podcast. Of course, I'm Taryn Williams. Thank you so much for checking out this new episode. And also, I just have to say this. I'm so excited. This is going to be the 30th episode of the Order Up Podcast. It's a huge milestone for me personally, just because I wasn't sure how long I would do the podcast, to be completely honest. But this will be the 30th episode. I'm very excited. So let's get into this topic. So I was debating on what the 30th episode was going to be. I had a couple of ideas. I was kind of floating through my mind. But this news just kind of happened a couple of days ago, and it's fresh in my mind. And I figured, why not talk about this? It's one of the biggest games of 2020, probably one of the biggest games of 2020, and one of the biggest games for the past couple of years that's coming out. And we're talking about Cyberpunk 2077. And it's so funny because just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my best friend. We were just talking about it, and we were both like, "This game has so much hype behind it. Oh man, it might fail just because." And I don't want Cyberpunk 2077 to fail at all. I really don't. But there's so much hype. There's so much build up to it. And then IGN just released a video, or just not a video, but just released an article saying that now the studio, CD Projekt Red, which is the studio design making the game, they're going to be in crunch for the next few weeks to make sure that the game meets its November 17th or November 19th release date, which is insane. If you don't know, crunch in the video game industry is horrible. Like, crunch is like the worst thing that can happen, because that's just, if they're working 6 days straight, I don't know how many hours, probably overtime hours, trying to get this game finished and polished and ready to go by next month. And I understand there was some stuff happening, of course, with COVID and the virus and the pandemic and quarantine and things like that. They probably got pushed off schedule. But this game was announced in 2012. Actually, it was announced in 2012. And it's just gonna be called Cyberpunk. They ended up adding 2077 a little bit later in 2012. So the game's been developed for 8 years. 8 years, that's, I forget what, 2012. So, new console generation was happening and things like that, and getting fresh and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, new technologies was happening. There's probably some turnover in the company. There's probably some stuff that we won't know until like 2024. We start realizing like what happened with the game and why it takes so long. But yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 is supposed to come out November 19th. I think it got delayed a little bit because of, for reasons, it probably got pushed back. And yeah, it's actually, and now they're going into crunch, and that's terrifying for me. Like, one of the things, the game already has so much hype. There's already like Keanu Reeves is gonna be a playable game. The game is so big. They started doing their Night City like broadcasts on YouTube and on Twitch and stuff to kind of hype up the game's mechanics and the story and your choices and things like that. Yeah, so it has all this hype, and now, they're building it up, showing you like the different branches, how you can have different, starting points and things like that. How every character type has like a different origin, and that backstory leads to different things in the during the game. You get different missions. Certain missions are locked out because if you choose this path, you can't do this. Like, they added all these really great details. And CD Projekt Red did the Witcher series, all the Witcher games. So they know how to make an open world game. They did a bunch of them. They made a shit ton of money off the Witcher games, and so they decided to do this. And it's just like, I just don't. I want the game to do well. Like, I feel like Ghost of Tsushima, which came out earlier this year, Ghost of Tsushima did so well. I think because it was good, but there was no hype. Like, they announced it, they showed it, and it came out, and it did really, really well. Because I think there was no buzz about it. Really, there was like some stuff, I think, but it wasn't like crazy hype. And you get like these YouTube conferences and this big presser. It was just kind of like, here's the game, it's coming out, it's gonna be dope. And Sucker Punch, I think, did really, really well with it was Sucker Punch that made Ghost of Tsushima, I'm pretty sure. So Sucker Punch, they're the team that made Infamous, and they made Ghost of Tsushima, which has made them a shit ton of money. So now they have like some more pedigree. So I really want Cyberpunk 2077 to succeed. I really do. Bottom of my heart. But I just had this feeling we're going to get Watchdogged. And if you don't remember that, when Watchdog was released, initially, it was super dope. They showed the initial trailer at E3. Everyone was hype. Oh, it looked crispy and this and that. When the game came out, it wasn't bad, but it looked like half the way. It looked like, a reduced version. It was like a clearance version of the one that we saw at E3. And so I just don't want that to happen to Cyberpunk. It has so much good stuff going for it. It has so much character. The city's alive and breathing, and everything you do affects different parts of the city and how the NPCs react to you. So the game is going to be, it's massive and it's huge and it's dope. And I just hope it just flows together. But the moment I saw that article that they're going into crunch, I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. Because if you get into crunch, that's like, in college, when you have a final that's going to cover, 20 chapters, and you haven't read any chapters, so the night before you're trying to cram, that's the equivalent of crunch in the video game industry. It's hard. Like, it's so hard. If you follow Matt McMuscles, his YouTube channel, he has a video series called What Happened, and it's different games and went through it's games and movies. I think he does both, but basically just kind of like what happened to these games, like the backstories, the development problems, the company problems. People leaving, all the crunch, and almost all of those videos for what happened. There's always crunch. There's always a deadline you have to meet, and the company's like, you gotta meet this deadline. We gotta make it. We gotta make it. And their staff is just forced to live in their offices. They barely get any sleep, and they're trying to push through, and they're trying to push towards it, and they just can't. And it's just like in games, they come out way too soon. They're hella like so many bugs are missed. Super buggy. Games aren't complete. The graphics aren't where they should be, and blah 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 blah. And all this happens, and then the game has so much hype. Like, it's gonna be the best thing ever, and then it just falls apart. A la Street Fighter Five. Street Fighter Five went through it. Street Fighter Five has a What Happened episode, and I'm pretty sure Marvel's Avengers is gonna have a What Happened episode in a couple of years. Again, because like people don't seem to realize how hard it is to make a game, and when things happen, they can't just be like, "Oh yeah, so and so just left the company," or man, the engine's now outdated. We gotta we gotta take all our assets. You just put it on a new engine that we've never used before. They can't say all those things, and they can't say all those things to the public. All that shit's internal until they could talk about it like 3 years later. Oh yeah. Well, what really happened was there was a bat in the office and it ate a wire and it exploded and we had to start over. Now you won't know that stuff until like way later. So I'm really excited about Cyberpunk 2077. I want it to do well. I am not pre-ordering it because I just that they're doing like they're doing. I'm not pre-ordering it because I just want to wait. I hope it does well. Fingers crossed. I'm throwing up all the Hail Marys. I'm getting my rabbit's foot, my 4-leaf clover. Like I'm a rubber baby. I'm a rub Buddha. Like like, I want the game to succeed because the game needs to succeed. But it has so much hype. They're doing like a Netflix anime for it too that kind of goes with the story. There's also like you can go to nightcity.com to like see like the city and what's happening. It's great. There's so much stuff. Like the market engine for this game is insane. Like they put so much money into it, but I just want the game to live up to that hype. And I have a feeling it probably won't. It might be still good, but it might not live up to these high ass, God of War, Breath of the Wild, you know, type expectations where those games were amazing. And the fun thing about it is like Breath of the Wild was good, but it didn't have like a ton of hype. It got hype, when it was coming out, but it didn't get a ton of hype. And so did God of War. It got hype, but it wasn't like this. They didn't have like all this stuff where, oh yeah, look at this, look at behind the scenes here, look at this behind the scenes, look at what we're doing here. When you blink, the water blinks. Like just dumb shit like that. Just hyping the game up. Just the PR machine is just going crazy for this game. And I just hope the quality of the game matches the PR that it's getting. And that's all I really want. Because I want the game to succeed. I want CD Projekt Red to succeed. So maybe we get, Cyberpunk 2077, or maybe Cyberpunk 2080, or, Cyberpunk, 2177 or something like that. So they can make a sequel. Like, I want to see the game industry succeed at all times. But I don't know. It's just that crunch. The game is already super hyped. The deadline's getting closer. So instead of them kind of like maybe relaxing and maybe doing like some, iron out some problems, make some things look prettier. We're like cleaning this up, cleaning that up. When you go into crunch, that means that there is some stuff that they're definitely behind on. Where instead of them being maybe 90%, 95% done, they're probably like 60%, 70% done. And it's just like fuck. And they only got, today's October. At the time of me recording this podcast, today is October 3rd. The game comes out November 19th, so you only get a month and 16 days to make this happen. So you get like 46 days ish, 47 days ish, to make this happen. So we'll see. We will see what Cyberpunk 2077 does. I hope it like blows it out of the water. I hope it sells like 2 million units worldwide in the first week and all this crazy stuff. Because I want the game to succeed. I can't wait to see it. I don't know if I'll buy it right away, but I'll definitely play it probably eventually. I got some shit I gotta play. Maybe that should be a podcast of just all the games I have to play and the woes of gamers. I might do that as another podcast. But yeah. Anyway, Thank you so much for hanging out with me and checking out this brand new episode of the Aura Podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Again, this is the 30th episode, which is a huge accomplishment. It's very, very dope. I'm super excited. Definitely check out the website, www.slicingDicingGaming.com, for all things Digital Chef. I have my two blogs, the Gaming Goodness and the Pantry. I have those two blogs, of course. Of course, there's a YouTube channel, which there's a link to the website. The YouTube channel is Slicing Dicing Gaming Entertainment. So go ahead and check that out on YouTube. The Twitch channel is Slicing Dicing Gaming ENT. So you can follow me on Twitch. You can follow me, subscribe on YouTube, like all the videos you like. YouTube channel is Food and Gaming. The Twitch channel is strictly gaming. There's longer playthroughs and stuff like that. I've been playing a lot of indie games, so I try to put indie games on the Twitch channel. I highlight a lot of indie games personally because I just love seeing those indie games get love. So that's that and that. And also, I have a merch place. I have a Teespring store. There's a link to the Teespring store over on SlicingDicingGaming.com. Click on that link. Buy some Digital Chef merchandise. Get a shirt. Get a hoodie. Buy 2 hoodies. Buy 5 shirts. I'll greatly appreciate it. And of course, the Oreo Podcast, you can find it. There's a link to it through on the website as well. It goes through the Anchor app. You can go through there. But the podcast is on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, and all this great stuff. If you go to the Anchor homepage or the Anchor podcast page for it, it'll show you all the links where it's connected to. Greatly appreciate it. Again, this is the 30th episode of the Oreo Podcast. I'm just very humbled and very blessed, and it's just been a lot of fun. I don't podcast as much as I used to. I should podcast a little bit more, but things are happening. I'm working on a bunch of things. If you follow me on social media and stuff, you kind of see me just doing a bunch of stuff between the YouTube videos and doing cooking videos and streaming on Twitch and being a day trader and learning about penny stocks and all this stuff. So I try to throw in podcasts where I can. I just really want to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 because it's one of the biggest games of the year. And when they said they had crunch, I was like, oh shit, I might need to just talk about this and just kind of give my 2 cents. I hope they make it out. Fingers crossed. CD Projekt Red, I'm praying for y'all. I hope y'all smash this. I hope the game comes out, make y'all millions of dollars, and y'all can relax. Because crunch is a bitch. Just to keep it completely 100. Crunch is a pain. No matter where you have to do crunch in life, crunch sucks. So try to do things ahead of time and don't have to crunch. That's my PSA for today. Again, I am Taryn Williams, always and forever, slicing, dicing, gaming. It's not just a motto, it's a lifestyle. I'll see you in the next podcast, or the next video, or the next live stream. Later.